Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Today we're talking about the life of CEOs and why it's getting so much harder and harder to be a CEO and make your mark in the organization. Um, More scrutiny, more complacency, less tenure, and bad succession planning lead up to the the difficulty of being a CEO in any organization now. So the CEO life is getting tougher, but towards the end, I'm going to give you 4 potential ways that CEOs and organizations can make it a little better. Now, we all know the role of a CEO is without a doubt the most significant leadership role within a company. The CEO is the face of the business. He or she shapes the organizational culture and embodies what the company stands for, or should embody what the company stands for. For better or worse, awareness of the significance of the CEO role has extended beyond the world of business and into pop culture. The reputation of a CEO can live and die based on the professional or personal actions he or she takes, and as a result, what is said about him or her on the internet. Now, at the same time, CEOs are getting less and less time to make their mark in an organization. Median tenure for CEOs at large gap companies has dropped from 6 to 5 years since 2013. Now, so the question becomes, if CEO tenure is shrinking and the scrutiny of the public is growing, how can CEOs drive performance and organizations drive performance? Now, the research and the white papers that I've been reviewing reviews trends, practices, and opportunities that companies can take advantage of to improve business performance, right? By optimizing the role of the CEO and setting up long-term success with a pipeline of diverse future leaders. Now, let's quickly take a look at the role of a CEO. The CEO is the highest ranking executive in the company. They are the main point of communication between the board of directors and the C-suite, meaning the CFO, the COO, the CIO. You get it. On a less operational and more human level, CEOs set the tone and the vision for their organizations. What the CEO says and does affects how employees and customers perceive the organization, inside and outside the office. Now, today's CEOs live an increasingly public life in which his or her actions can be disseminated and dissected by virtually anyone with an internet connection. This relatively new dimension to the role has been cited as one of the many reasons why CEO tenure has been falling in the recent years. Now, let's look at the shrinking tenure, okay? The CEO position was once viewed through a long-term lens. However, CEO tenures last much closer to 5 years. In 2017, almost half of the CEOs had been in their positions 5 years or less. Now, that's just according to the Harvard Law School Forum on Corporate Governance and Financial Regulation. There are three possible reasons, why there is low tenure for CEOs that happened over the past 5 years. The first possible reason, research shows that new CEOs are often more effective than long tenured CEOs. See, new CEOs bring more energy and new ideas to the table, while older CEOs can become more myopic and risk adverse. At the same time, CEO exits from underperforming companies are on the rise. In 2016, the succession rate of poorly performing companies rose 40%. All right? Third possible reason, the increasing transparency of a CEO's actions has ushered in a new era of accountability, with forced turnovers due to ethical lapses increasing 36% from 2011 to 2016. Now, given the shrinking time frame that CEOs have to make a mark in the organizations and the increased public scrutiny of the role, here are 4 possible ways that CEOs and organizations can drive performance. The first one is make strategic moves early on. One of the results of failing tenures has been CEOs taking decisive actions quickly after stepping into the role. This makes sense as new CEOs must make their mark against the backdrop of a ticking clock. CEOs better make the right moves now, or their jobs may not be theirs as long as they want. Now, one research company reinforces the notion that early on is the ideal time for new CEOs to make their big moves. They believe that as outsiders of the organization, new CEOs are more attuned to and therefore more responsive to the external environment, which assists them in strengthening the organization's relationships with the customers. Now, McKinsey has identified some common actions new CEOs take when they start their tenure, including reshuffling top management, of course, mergers, acquisitions, cost-cutting programs, and new product launches. Now, listen closely. It's important to note that the bold strategic moves tend to be higher risk for CEOs of well-performing companies. If the company is doing well, a bold new shakeup or initiative carries the risk of setting the company down a less successful path. In other words, don't fix what ain't broke. Now, on the flip side, if a company is underperforming or not performing well, then shaking things up is usually welcomed, as there is less downside to calculated bold action. Now, number 2, remain as an outsider. While new CEOs are praised for their decisive actions and outsider thinking, more tenured CEOs labor under the perception of being too inward focused and risk adverse, according to several of the research papers that I've looked at. In their later sessions, however, CEOs myopically commit to obsolete paradigms, becoming risk adverse, and stale in the saddle, if you will, and tend to adapt less to the external environment, thus hurting the firm's performance. Now, research by PwC reinforces this notion is of detrimental insider perspective. In their 2016 CEO success study, they found CEOs hired from outside the organization had delivered higher median total shareholder returns than insiders for the past 4 years. As tenure increases, it's easy to become entrenched in what you know and less open to outsider information. The message here is clear. CEOs must maintain an outsider perspective to be able to adeptly respond to what's happening in the market. An outsider perspective is one that is characterized by market/external focus, growth/innovation centricity, and optimizing the company culture. Third possible way you can drive performance is embrace the public nature of the role. Now, over the past 5 years, the percentage of CEOs forced out of office for ethical transgressions increased in every region analyzed by the PwC. Every region meaning the US, Canada, Western Europe, and BRIC countries. Excuse me. Furthermore, total forced turnovers for ethical lapse rose 36% from 3.9 to 5.3. Now, with the proliferation digital paper trails, right? These hold CEOs and other leaders accountable for the decisions that they make, on top of the 24/7 news cycle, which increases the likelihood that the word of an ethical lapse will go viral. It's important for CEOs to scrutinize their own actions through the lens of public perception before acting on them. CEOs must see themselves as a public figure or as public figures, embracing the public nature of their roles and using it to their advantage. Now, this is not about exploiting public opinion. With people growing increasingly wary of big corporations and the people who run them, any whiff of deceit will undoubtedly be discovered and used against you. This is about genuinely connecting with the internal and external audiences and acting in a way that is aligned with theirs and hopefully your ethics as well. And the fourth one, and the final potential way to drive performance, create a diverse pipeline for effective succession planning. One other possible reason for shorter CEO tenures is poor succession planning on behalf of the organization. Another study done noted that CEOs who step into the role after a forced succession have shorter tenures than those coming in after a planned succession. A median of 4.2 years compared to 5.6. They believe that companies that lack good succession plans are setting themselves up for even more frequent turnovers. Furthering this point of view is the fact that in the past 15 years, higher performing companies have had planned turnovers of 79% of the time versus 55% of the time for low performing companies, according to one study. At the foundation of successful planning is a pipeline of strong and diverse future leaders. One clear area where most companies are failing is the lack of gender diversity in their pipelines. And in 2016, six of the 63 CEO positions that became available in the S&P 500 were filled by women. And while this seems sadly low, the total number of women CEOs in the Fortune 500 is at an all-time high of 32, which perhaps makes it even sadder. There are many reasons why women CEOs remain elusive, most of which have to do with poor succession planning. In a business world that has long been run by men, women have not had the range of opportunities, the broad experience, nor the professional networks necessary to be hired for or be as successful as male CEOs. To promote diversity in the pipelines and ultimately future organizational success, companies that provide leadership roles and development opportunities for women, so that when CEO and other C-suite positions become available, these women are primed to perform at that level. All right, that's it for me, guys. I know this was a little lengthy, but I felt like this was a really, really good piece of research that can help you guys understand why CEOs are coming and going so fast. And it may even be happening in lower management as well. And this is some insight as to potentially why this could be happening based on a lot of research. So please keep that in mind. If you're able to be put in a position of authority, especially a CEO position, but even if it's a manager, supervisor, whatever, remember these potential ways that you can help make it easier. Make strategic moves early on, because you are against the backdrop of a ticking clock. They want to see what you can do and how fast you can turn it around. Remain an outsider. Look at it from the outside. Don't get caught up being on the inside, because you get stagnant and stale, and then you won't be able to grow and maneuver the company or organization the way it needs to be moved. Embrace the public nature of the role. Understand what it is that you're doing. Scrutinize your actions before you act on them. Make sure your actions align with the company and the goals and the mission statement and all that good stuff. And then finally, create a diverse pipeline for effective succession planning. Everyone deserves an opportunity to grow and succeed. Let's not exclude it to just all men or all older white guys or whatever. Everyone has the ability and potential to grow and be next level management or leadership. All right? Again, I apologize for the lengthiness of this video, but it was really important that I get this one in, because I really feel like there's some information in here that you guys can use to sharpen your leadership skills and make you the leader that people want to follow and gravitate towards. All right? Remember, if you need some help with leadership development coaching, team building, diversity training, which is really an issue in a lot of companies now, please do not hesitate to contact me. I will sit down with you and put together a tailor-made plan conducive for your success as well as your team and organizations as well. All right? Remember, great leadership equals great results. How are you leading?